Awesome. Tom and Mark, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation with Real Talk with Joe. I'm so grateful that you guys are here this afternoon, safely inside and enjoying a Friday afternoon, I hope. And we're going to be having some great conversations, Tom and Mark. And the thing that I've really been really appreciating about you both in this is that you are both experts in some fields that people are really asking some serious questions about. And where a college or a high schooler, junior, senior are really making decisions right now as a parent. What do we say to our kids? Mark, the unemployment numbers are just still booming. Unfortunately, yeah. It's ridiculous. People are legitimately hurting. People are legitimately wondering what to do. And there's just so many things going on. So friends, if you are here today, we're so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us. It's so exciting to have people that we know and love join this conversation. If we don't know you, my name is Joe Malizia. I'm a life coach and business coach. I get to stand with people day in and day out as they walk through life and as they get to really strive for growth, whether it's professionally and maybe they're selling a company or they're trying to work on relationships with their employees or their clients, or personally, maybe they're working on their marriage, maybe they're working on their relationship with their kids, maybe their relationship with themselves. My opportunity to care for folks and meet people is in holding the space for the conversations that need to happen to then allow for the results to take place for folks. And so I am so grateful to have two people that are doing this similar thing in their own profession, holding the space for people and really taking care of folks in a very beautiful, beautiful way. And so without further ado, guys, do you mind introducing yourselves? Share who you are, maybe a little bit of backstory, what got you into what you're doing. I want you to brag on yourselves. People need to know that you got some street cred. You're not just, first timers doing this thing. Yeah, and so I don't care who starts first. Tom, let's start with you, and then Mark will go.
I was going to arm wrestle.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, exactly. Rock, paper, scissors, go.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Leahy, and I have a company called Optimum Ed. We're a higher education advisory firm here in Richmond, Virginia. We do operate nationally, and we can place young people internationally if that's appropriate. To answer the question how I got into this business, I retired from the Army a number of years ago, got into wealth management, and one of the first couples that sat across the table from me asked me to help them fill out a FAFSA for their daughter, and my eyes glazed over. I had no clue what they were talking about. I said, that wasn't on the securities exam, but that got me, interested, got me doing research and looking around. And the more I did, the more passionate and the more intrigued I got about this whole area of financial aid and college admissions. And so over the years, as I was in wealth management, I developed the process that I carry students and families through to really create a value proposition in this thing we call higher education, which is even more important today because it's become very inefficient for most families. So that's where, that's how I got involved. And a few years ago, I got out of wealth management to do this full time. That's why that's how important I think it is, how critical I think it is for families and students to have a platform to make better decisions about the direction they're going in life and do that in a way that it doesn't devastate the family financially and ends up with something successful on the part of the student in terms of a job and career, not just an education.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. Mark, how about yourself, my friend?
My name is Mark Misiano. I run a company called Resume Ready. I'm a certified professional resume writer, so I help people with their resumes, of course. I write cover letters, I update LinkedIn profiles or create them from scratch. And then I also help with job search tactics is really important right now, looking for a job and how to be effective at doing that. And then just helping with interview prep and general career counseling and guidance. I actually started out in higher education, so the stuff that Tom talks about is super important to me too. I think it's important for people to know and understand their options for higher education. I started out in academic advising, And I was working with only online students, which was a kind of a fun challenge to make sure that you're able to connect with people even though you can't necessarily see them or sit down with them. I became the lead academic advisor for the School of Business, so I had all of the business and IT programs, but as one of only 7 lead advisors for an entire university, I had 200 academic advisors asking me questions every day. And so if one of the others was out, then I would need to be able to answer questions about any other program. So I was the backup lead advisor for nursing and education and government and health sciences and all these other things. So I had this random industry knowledge, what is a nursing preceptor, or how many hours do you need to complete to get your certification in different kinds of counseling, and never thought I would use that ever again. I moved on. I became communications coordinator was my position title. My job was essentially to be the nitpicker and to edit every single thing that marketing created. And so I luckily am a super perfectionist. I can't let anything go, which is what I said when they asked me in the interview what my biggest weakness was. I said, I can't let anything go. And that turned out to be exactly what they wanted. So it worked out really well. And then I started the business with the idea that it doesn't need to cost an arm and a leg for people to get professional help with a resume. So I became a certified professional resume writer through the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches, and decided to make this as affordable as I could for people to make sure that I'm changing the trajectory of people's lives by finding their value and putting that down on paper to impress hiring managers, to be memorable, to then go through the interview process and land that job offer. And so it's been fun. I focus locally in Richmond, but I have had clients from all over the country. I have one in Colorado right now. I have an international client who is a US citizen living in London who wants to come back to the States. So I work with people from all over the world even, which is exciting.
Gosh, that's awesome. And so as you guys can tell, we're very, very fortunate, friends, to have these two experts leading the conversation today. I mean, when you talk about experience, both of them have it. When we talk about questions to answers that people are really pressing in on, Mark, what are people talking to you about right now? Like, phone call rings, what are people saying? What are they doing? Like, what are they thinking? What's the reality from your perspective as to what clients, prospects are communicating to you right now?
People are scared. There's a lot of fear in the job search process right now. People don't tend to. I haven't gotten a lot of clients who are completely out of a job right now, which is fantastic. I mean, they're trickling in slowly, but really, what's happening right now is my clients are coming to me saying, I know that because the unemployment rate is so high that I'm going to apply for this job, and 300 people are also going to apply for this job, and I need to set myself apart. Mm-hmm. And so people want to find ways that they can differentiate themselves. And a lot of that is going to come from the content. It's going to be, what are you saying about yourself that not just anybody could say? And are you saying it in a way that grabs attention and communicates your value? And that can be really hard to do for people, because one of the toughest things, I don't even like doing it to myself, honestly, it's hard to brag about yourself a little bit, especially when your day-to-day just feels like your day-to-day. It doesn't feel like this is the most impressive thing, but really your day-to-day and the things that you're doing just to get by really are impressive to a lot of hiring managers. They want to know that you're going to come in, you're going to sit at your desk, and you're going to be there producing every single day, or you're going to be on the assembly line and you're going to increase efficiency. And so people are afraid that they're not going to stand out. And so then it's kind of up to me to say, okay, well, there's, because there's so many different ways we can do that. We can get you a little bit of a design element on the resume, right? Look interesting, not just that you opened a new Word document and you typed in 12-point Times New Roman font and that's all you did. So we make it nice and branded, show a little bit of personality while remaining professional, but be eye-catching at the same time. And that kind of allows people to be memorable in the mind of a hiring manager. And then when we get that content on point and we're pulling out measurable outcomes and we're showing value, then the hiring manager is going to go, oh, yeah, check. That's what we want. Oh, yeah, that's what we want. And then, if my job is really to get the hiring manager to look at somebody for 45 seconds to a minute, which is probably about 5 times longer than they're glancing at other resumes. And so if I can get that person to be reviewed, for about a minute, then the likelihood of an interview is almost guaranteed at that point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Are people, honestly, Mark, what's like the layout of the land? Like, it sounds like a lot of people that you're talking to, thankfully, still have some jobs or have, something's intact.
Right.
A little shaky.
Yes.
The wheel's starting to like wobble on the bike. And you're like, yeah, they're about to go down. We're going downhill, and wobbly wheel is never a good thing. But are you sensing that people are scared, worried? Like, what are the emotions that people are really kind of like wrestling with right now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of apprehension, and I feel like people are kind of on two ends of the spectrum. There's the fear that they're missing out if they don't apply right now because they know that so many people are looking for jobs. And then there's the other end where people are afraid that companies are not hiring anymore and that the jobs that they want aren't ever going to be available again, or they're not going to be available for the next year or two. Mm-hmm. And they're going to either be stuck without a job, or they're going to be stuck in a job that maybe they don't enjoy, or they know that they can't grow. And so it's interesting because I feel like half my time is spent telling people, yes, apply to jobs, but let's differentiate you, and continue to apply. It's a numbers game. You have to apply to a certain number really to be even asked for any interviews, things like that. And then I spend the other half of my time going, companies are still hiring. Don't wait, because if you wait, you might lose out on positions that are available right now. The smart companies are planning ahead and saying, well, when we bounce back by the end of the year, we're going to need some really solid people, and we need them trained up for the next couple months so that when that boom hits and all that pent up demand is released, we have people to hit the ground running. So it's kind of that balance of like, continue to apply, don't wait, but how do you do that in a way that really is a way to market yourself,
Right. Well, that's so important to see, because that's exactly what we've been talking about in our conversations leading up to this, is how do we get ready today so that we are there for tomorrow, right? Like, how do we, Tom said, how do we not be that deer caught in the headlights? Yeah. Because Tom, you're hearing another side that's pretty vocal right now when it comes to students, but also each of these students have these things called parents or guardians, and these parents and guardians can really get a little scared about.
Well, that's this talk about guardian. That's a different conversation. We talk about what happened up in Chicago not too long ago. But anyway, so what's going on? Everything is really speculation right now. So I think it's easier to ask the question, what isn't changing than what is, and when I have conversations with students and parents right now, we have to understand that there's certain things that are going to stay the same. There's things that we don't know how it's going to look until we get there. We talk about which school is going to be open in the fall. Colleges are planning to be open, but each college has their own plan. Each one has their own policies, but that could change dramatically as we open up this business. Are we going to see another huge spike in COVID-19 later in the summer that's going to change the dynamics again and cause us to reassess whether we need to be on campus or not? I can tell you that right now, they're saying the surveys that I'm seeing that there's about 17 to 20% of high school seniors right now that have accepted and are planning to be on campus in the fall are rethinking their plans. They're rethinking, even going to school for this next year, doing something else for a year, staying closer to home, maybe going to community college, that sort of thing. So it is changing on a daily basis. And so it's very hard to answer questions about what is happening other than the fact that we don't have standardized testing going on right now. However, SAT and ACT are planning to have, additional dates in the fall to try to make up for it. They're trying to expand facility capacity for testing. But, all of this is still in the works. And, to be able to sit down and talk to, for example, a high school junior right now is really difficult, because we can speculate on how it's going to affect admissions in the fall, but we're not really sure. And again, it's dependent on each school's policies and admissions committees and that sort of thing, how they, so, everybody's saying, well, they're not going to put as much emphasis on testing because, standardized testing because kids haven't been able to test this spring. Okay, that seems intuitive, but, depending on the school, that may or may not be the case. So what are we going to put emphasis on? Are we going to look more heavily at essays because we don't have the standardized test piece? Or the resume, is the high school resume going to come into play more? What are those other things that the students been doing outside of class, and at what level? The leadership, and the passion and commitment to something outside of class. Are those things going to weigh more heavily in the admissions process? What about letters of recommendation from teachers that they've been limited or they've been their experience with the student has been short-circuited by 3 months or so, or letters going to be less important for juniors in their admissions process. We're not sure. We know it's going to be different, but what's not going to change is the fact that you still need to do those things to maintain your competitiveness. To stop, to sit at home and do nothing is not the answer. Talk about extracurricular activities and that in your high school resume. We're losing 6 months of opportunities because we can't get together again. But it's a time to be creative. It's a time to start looking at opportunities to do things virtually. You can still help nonprofits and that sort of thing from your computer.
Yeah.
So it's a time to get creative and show that creativity and those things you can put on your resume. And sort of what Mark was saying about, what are the things you are doing, to move forward. And this is what will be, impress admissions committees when we get there. What's also not going to change is what direction are you going academically. It's still a very important conversation, no matter how curriculum is going to be served up, whether it's going to be in the classroom, whether it's going to be virtual, whether it's going to be a combination of both. You still have to determine what direction you're going to go academically, and for us, that's driven by what you're going to be when you grow up, not to be facetious, but that's what it's all about. What direction you're going in life? How do we translate that into career and academic path, which really sort of starts the whole process of deciding where we need to go to school and all that. That doesn't change. That can happen now, virtually, that assessment piece. So there's things that still need to happen, things that we still need to be looking at and taking care of, and not get confused and get sidetracked by the chaos, right? And that's what's important.
Yeah. Well, so much of what you guys are saying, it's what do you want to be when you grow up? Interestingly enough, Mark seems to be helping some of those adults that are asking the same question. What do I want to be when I grow up? Now I'll know a difference.
Reset, right? It's an opportunity
Exactly.
to reassess and reset and move forward, not to, as I say, if we continually focus on what's happened, I don't know if my dad always used to say, if ifs and ands were pots and pans, the world would be full of tinkers, right?
That's great.
Yeah. Focus. I like to say, you learn from the past, you plan for the future, you live for today, right? And if you're not, so you can't live in the past, but we certainly have to learn from our mistakes. If we don't learn from what's happened, then we've wasted our time. You got to plan for the future, but we can't be focused completely on the vision. And every day you got to get up and make the most of today. That's what it's all about.
Tom's just going to lead us in more motivational speaking.
Yeah, right.
Mark and I are going to need everything. This is the wise sage speaking to the young bucks. We're just going to listen because this is a lot easier. But there's so much listen in, people. That's the thing.
Right.
If you're a high school student and if you're a professional, which anybody who's watching this is probably in some of those categories somewhere, listen up, because there's gold there of realizing we are responsible for how we show up. That's one of the things that I've been having the constant conversation with in my clients is, there's a lot of emotions happening. There should be. there should be a lot of emotions. If you're not having an emotion, then you're a stone and not real. Okay, you must be a machine.
Right.
So,
The college process, selection process for most families is an emotional time. Everybody's got a vested interest in where Johnny or Susie is going to end up going to school. Sometimes it's a practical reason, sometimes not, but that now there's an extra layer of emotion added to that because of the uncertainty and the chaos that's going on. And so, it's really important to take a step back and try to bring some objectivity to that process. We're going to be lost.
Right. Well, and I said before with job searching, and it's already kind of a numbers game at this point, but for something that's job transitions are so disheartening a lot of times because you look at something and you say, I'm amazing. I would be so good at this job. And you apply and you're excited, and then a week goes by and then you don't hear anything, and then you never hear anything. You never hear a single thing. And so it's already so disheartening. And then to do that, if you live by yourself or if you've been laid off and you're terrified because you're the main breadwinner in your family, like you said, there's so many emotions, and this is just compounding those. And so that's where my clients especially are like, let's talk about job search tactics. Like, how do I make the most of this? Because it can take you 45 minutes to apply to a single job. It can take you 2 hours to apply to a single job. And then to never hear anything back about that is the most frustrating thing. And so there's so many ways that we talk about it. One of the big things I tell people is to start doing all of these networking things, join networking groups, watch things like this, sharpen yourself. I heard one person say, if you can't work at your business, work on your business. And it's the same thing personally, right? You might not be in a job right now, but you can still sharpen yourself. You can still, so many colleges are offering a free online course right now, or, find ways to just build yourself up a little bit. And then we get in with some of those job search tactics with a better resume. And then, we're increasing the chance, right? We're increasing your visibility and who might see you. But I tell people all the time, you have to be prepared for the fact that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be disheartening, and it's not going to be apply, interview, hire, boom, boom, boom.
Managing expectations is where it starts with what Mark and I do is making sure that they have a realistic outlook, and so that they're not devastated when it happens, that they don't get that job or whatever, or they don't get into that school, or they're not going to play basketball at a D1 school, right? And these sort of things that, so managing expectations is so important. And then managing the information, all the information that is swirling around out there, and then taking it, and helping manage the process. That's
right. I saw a statistic before coronavirus, I had even heard of it, that said that the average job search in like January or February, people were looking for work for on average about 5 weeks. And now,
wow.
We don't have numbers on it now, but it's going to be way longer than that. And like I said, too, it being a numbers game, if you apply for 4 jobs, there's a really good chance you're not going to hear back about any of those.
Right.
And so I'll get some clients sometimes who will say, well, can you guarantee me that I'll have an interview within the next 2 weeks? Well, no, I would love to be able to do that. But let's be realistic, let's manage those expectations. And so that's where I come in and I say, well, I'm a member of some networking organizations and we're meeting virtually. You're welcome to join me and talk about yourself and your traits. And maybe, who knows, maybe you'll meet somebody whose family friend has a job for you. You never know where stuff like that can lead. So you kind of attack it from all angles to, make your station a little better, but it's not always guaranteed. And, whether, you get accepted to a school or you get an interview for a job, there's no guarantees in anything, especially right now. I'm sick of hearing every commercial on TV start with "in these uncertain times," but it's also true.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, there's a question that I have in that, because, a lot of people are saying, I'm waiting for the right job, right? I'm waiting for the one. the one that I love, the one that I had dreamed of for years and years, the one I wanted for college, the one that Tom helped me go to college for, right? Yay. And now I don't have those jobs, so I can't possibly take a temporary job because that would look bad on the resume. I mean, what do you say to that? Like, I'm let me be the first. I will admit, I've been there. I've done that. I can't possibly get a job now. I have to wait for the right job. So I can't possibly flip burgers at, Burger King or Chick-fil-A or whatever, or work at the shoe store or whatever, because that's bad. I'm not then able to be flexible. I can't be available. All these excuses were running through my mind, right? Like whenever I was in that job search, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but like, what do you say to that person? Like, I'm waiting, so I need to be available, so I'll just wait.
Yeah. I mean, this is my thing. Right now, there's so much uncertainty. There's so little guarantee of a paycheck tomorrow because your company where you thought you were very safe lays people off. And so I tell people not to wait on anything. Also, though, I think that people genuinely believe there is one way to search for a job. And that way is to go on Indeed and apply. And now there's a quick apply button. And that is probably the worst way to apply for jobs. It's certainly a tool and it can be a great resource to find out about job openings. I'm all about that. But like I said before, attacking from all angles is the only way that you're going to get this done. And so, I mean, there's different statistics on it, but somewhere between 20 and 60% of jobs are not listed on company websites, on job boards. And so it's more about building a network within the industry where you want to be or where you are. And so I tell people all the time, it's not weird to connect with strangers on LinkedIn. It's actually pretty normal, especially if you're in the industry and you have something in common. You're not just adding every single person you ever see. But doing that where you're building people around you who maybe have the job that you want to have. And you can start a conversation with those people really easily by saying, oh, you work at Genworth. And I'm in financial services. I think Genworth is an amazing company. Do you like working there? What kinds of things do you do every day? Is it harder because of the coronavirus right now? You're not begging for a job, but you're building a network, right? And then when you can say, oh, well, this is what I do, and I've been there for this amount of time, and I found this article, I think it's really interesting. And then when you start to develop rapport with people, then either they're going to think of you potentially for a job and tell you about a job that might be open. There's opportunity there for you to, I never advocate, hitting the connect button saying, do you have any jobs open? But, after establishing some communication with them to be like, I love Genworth so much. I've thought about applying for jobs, but I don't see anything in this department right now. Do you know of anything that might be opening up? Or are you guys, are you on a hiring freeze right now? There's so many different things that you can do to engage with other people. And that engagement is the primary source of finding a new job instead of click, 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 type, 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 and sit on your hands. There's so much more you can do.
Yeah.
That bothers me about the word wait. Is that it kind of implies being sedentary. And there's, while you're maybe waiting for that perfect, like Mark said, do networking and that sort of thing. But you can also do things to improve yourself, so let's not wait, let's, figure out a way to move forward.
And this is the thing too, that, I mean, the landscape of job search and the interview process and the hiring process is going to change because you're going to see dozens and hundreds and millions of resumes that are now affected by COVID-19. And so it's going to be, instead of, well, why did you leave your last job? There's going to be some sort of assumption there to an extent of, oh, this person definitely got laid off because of the coronavirus. And so you're going to see people who go from high-paying jobs to what would traditionally be considered entry-level or low-paying jobs. And what that's going to say to a hiring manager is, I have two people. One of them took 8 months off and didn't do anything. And one of them got a job at Kroger and worked every single day to provide for his or her family. And they're going to start to want the people who are tenacious enough to do whatever it takes to provide for their family. And so I tell people all the time, there's no shame in saying, well, you know what? I'm going to go deliver for Amazon. I'm going to go work at Kroger. I'm going to help stock shelves at Walmart, because it's better than nothing. And it is so much easier. And I think this will still be the case down the line. It's always the case that employers want to hire people who are currently employed. They do not want to hire people who don't have a job right now, because it's just this red flag, and it's probably not very fair all the time, but it exists. And so if you can have a job, whatever that job is, it's better than having no job at all when it comes to the hiring process. It's always been how it is, and I genuinely believe that'll be how it is in the future.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's much better to be active and doing something for your mental and emotional health as well, rather than.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Yeah, and because it'll soften the blow when it's, I worked all day and I went home and I applied for some jobs and I didn't hear back from those jobs, but I'm so grateful for the job that I have right now.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And the willingness to keep going.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing. That's that's applicable whether you're a high schooler or you're unemployed right now. Like exactly. These students that I'm talking to just through the personal relationships, man, the ones that are really taking advantage of this time are like, they're connecting with more friends than they ever have. They are connecting with family members. I mean, this is like a fun season of life in some ways, because they have to do their schoolwork, but that's kind of taking a couple hours. It's all online. They do their schoolwork right. And then they go and hang out. Can't go anywhere. So like they're learning subjects. They're these universities like Ivy Leagues are offering for free. You're like, Yale's offering free classes. Are you kidding? Like what?
Yeah.
And that, what an awesome resource that is. Because I mean, Tom, whenever parents start doing the freak out, and I know I'm poking at them, but let's be honest, that does happen because they're worried, they're scared. A lot of parents are. I mean, their future for their child is altered. Not only is there health risks potentially, but now there's the future that is going to be looking a little different. I mean, what are you doing? What do you say to them? Like, how are you talking them off the cliff, Tom?
Well, for a family that is looking at the cost of education and they have no income, that's a hard conversation to have. We're seeing about a 5% decrease in the number of, financial aid applications, federal, financial aid applications this year. And it's in the lower income area for the most part. Mm-hmm. So there's families that were already worried about being able to pay for college. And now with what's happened, they're being laid off, whatever. Those kids aren't going to go, right? I mean, you talked about the 17-20% that are rethinking their plans. But even for families that are in, middle and upper income, where dad or mom has been laid off, it changes the financial landscape tremendously in terms of, looking forward. And so we're, it's speculating, obviously, but we're going to see probably it easier for competitive kids to look at Ivy Leagues this coming year because of that, while our more prestigious private public schools they're going to be even more competitive because of those circumstances. But again, we're speculating, and we're not really sure until we get there what that's going to look like.
Well, it's interesting too, Tom, because I know that with the passing of the CARES Act, and higher education institutions are getting extra money to help people because they know that finances are going to be a concern. And so it's one of those things where it's like people get scared, so they don't complete the FAFSA because they think that it's not going to help, where if they complete it, move through that process. Like, I know some folks over at Reynolds Community College, they got $4 million, and half of that from the government goes directly to students to help with the cost of attendance.
But again, it's because it's federally mandated money, it's going to be targeted at the lower, the kids that need it most. So we're still looking at this population of middle income students that are left out in the cold because,
that's so interesting.
Because the money's going to be targeting those and that's what the federal government is about, is helping those that have nots, right? I mean, that's what they should be doing. But the problem with that is that there's a those middle income folks, find it hard to move forward because they're not getting that help. And they've always been sort of a population that was, out there in never land when it comes to financial aid. It just depends on the school that they're looking at and the competitiveness of the student and these other variables, whether it's going to make sense or not for them financially.
That's fascinating.
I mean, honestly, look what's being created in all this. I mean, this is real life. This is real conversations. This is long-term effects. This isn't just like an immediate application, drop in admissions. This is also now you're talking about livelihoods that are being affected right now. Like
even more important, seniors, right? High school seniors right now, they've already submitted their financial aid forms, right? And it was based on 2018 tax returns. Think about it. What's happening in those families right now? Those seniors should be having conversations with the financial aid office saying, Mom and Dad aren't working now. They were in 2018. Things have changed dramatically. What are you going to do for me? Can you use your professional judgment to help me out if you want me on campus?
Yeah.
Come fall.
Absolutely. And that's the perfect term to use too for people who are curious about this. Professional judgment is a thing. It allows the institution to look at factors that aren't shown on the FAFSA.
Right.
Super important.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I want to then have that conversation of is what's holding. There's probably a little bit of intimidation, right? That could be there. They're a little worried of well, what happens if I make them mad? Right. Or what happens if I say the wrong thing? What happens if I look like a fool?
Well, you're not going to, I coach my students with, you have to be respectful. Obviously, you're not calling up and demanding. You're calling up.
Generally doesn't work very well.
No information.
Most anything in life.
And when this originally happened, even without the virus and all this going on, there is if something's happened because we're dealing with 2-year-old tax information. The fact that something could have changed in 2 years with the family's financial situation by the time they get ready to start paying for college is pretty, it's very possible that two-income family is now a one-income family. There's absolutely nothing wrong with putting that information in front of the financial aid office so they can make better decisions about how to help that student.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no shame and there's nothing that they're not going to get yelled at by doing that. I mean, it's important to have that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful thing that both of you guys do really well that really relates to even what I do. You come alongside of the student, you come alongside of the parent, the professional, right? And you sit in there with them. You sit in the conversation with them to help them prepare really, really well so that they can have the results that they're longing for. Job, education, future, meaning, purpose. I mean, there's meaning and purpose in going to college. There's a lot of depth to it. There's so much growth that happens. I mean, one of the things that one of my mentors shared with me is, college is one of the greatest opportunities where you really get to make some significant decisions in life.
There's always going to be a value to higher education, no matter what direction you go in terms of your career. Higher education is always going to, that educational leverage is going to hold you in good stead. Even if you're pursuing a career in something that doesn't require college level education, that degree is going to get you, retained longer, hired faster, promoted faster. So there's still going to be a value in higher education. It's just, what are we willing to pay for that educational leverage?
Right.
I mean, depending on what we're trying to achieve, can we, do we need a $200,000 degree from Columbia, or can an online degree from Phoenix do the same thing for us in terms of our career trajectory?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mark, what do you tell students that are really thinking about going the career route out of college? I'm sorry, out of high school. So 18 years old, can't even drink, they can go to war, but they can't drink. So riddle me that. That's another conversation for another day. But, what do you say? How would you coach one of them? Because maybe some of them are finding it to be difficult, if not impossible, to go to college. Yeah. And so even at the local level that may be more affordable, they're just kind of going, well, no, I want to work. I want to maybe take a gap year or 2 gap years just for the sake of catching somewhat normalcy, or maybe they have pre-existing health conditions that would make the in-person school option not possible. I don't know. Yeah. What would you say to them in their resume as they prepare for real life, real world work with maybe minimal experience?
Yeah, you'll get a lot of younger people who, in that kind of a situation, are going to go into a job and fill out an application, right? The cool thing is, while you might not be able to have like this amazing resume because you don't have very much experience, doing that little bit of above and beyond, right, to just get in the door is going to go a long way. And so, your resume might be a little vague. It might be, a little incomplete almost, a little short, but it's still important to, to kind of brand yourself, because if let's say you're going to go try and get a job at Taco Bell, which is probably where I'm going to have dinner. If you want a job at Taco Bell, you know what no one else is doing? Typing up a resume.
Right.
And so if you go in with a resume, it doesn't have to be the most amazing thing in the world, but it shows like I went above and beyond to get this job. So when you hire me, you know that I'm going to go above and beyond in the position. And so I think that's kind of what it's all about. And that's really what you're trying to communicate. I mean, we talk about education. It's always so much easier for me to write a resume for somebody who has completed a degree, because otherwise I have to figure out like, well, do we tell them the number of credit hours they completed? Do we tell them the number of years that they completed, or semesters, or, how do I make this look good without lying? Because I don't want to just put Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration. Well, that makes it sound like you finished, but if you didn't finish, then we kind of need to explain that a little bit more, because, otherwise you're lying on your application, which can get you fired or prosecuted. So, I tell people, if you can, finish your degree, because that's what's, going to be important. Usually the job requirement is a degree or equivalent in the workplace. Well, it's so much easier just to get the degree. And so for me, I would say, just try and get it done if you can. It gives you that credibility you're talking about. I mean, I was writing resumes before I became a certified professional resume writer. Did the certification do anything for me? Absolutely not. But it gives me credibility for people to go, oh, he's been peer reviewed.
Right.
Professionals who have been in the industry longer than he's been alive have looked at his work, and they deem it good enough to put their stamp of approval on it. And that's what education is in general. It's just saying like, this person has knowledge, this person has skills. You can trust that because we're putting our seal of approval that they can do this job.
And they're tenacious enough to finish what they start. It's, so often it's a badge of tenacity.
Yeah.
I want to jump back to the term that Joe, you used when you were asking about taking a gap year or two. So that implies that they're planning to go ahead with education at some point. So taking a gap year and is perfectly fine, and makes a lot of sense in a lot of cases if it's a part of a larger plan. To say I'm not going to take a gap year and do nothing, is not a gap. Not a gap, right? It's just So if we're going to take a gap year and it's part of a larger plan, and we're doing something to move forward in that gap year, not just sitting on our hands.
It's a gap year, not a nap year.
Right. Oh, I like that. I'm going to use that.
True educators right there speaking.
That's great. No, that's super interesting. And I think right now is kind of a cool time that if you're going to do that, like, because I'm envisioning it on a resume, right? That you could even put like gap year. But all of those things under it that you did, experience is experience. It doesn't have to be in the workplace necessarily. It can be volunteer, can be in the community, things like that. But, wherever you are right now, companies are freaking out because they're not making money, but they're still expending, money on costs, right? So if you can go into any organization and improve efficiency and lower operating costs or attract more business somehow, maybe it's through social media or, these new campaigns, if you can create something really, meaningful, and you can do something that you can show, then it doesn't matter whether it's professional experience, because what you did is you gained experience, and that's what matters. And like we said too, you're showing that you're not sitting on your hands at a tough time We've used the word tenacity so much, but it's so important because you're showing that you were tenacious enough to take a situation that's terrible because you got laid off, or because you couldn't go to school in the fall and you decided to take a gap year. Well, what did you do with that time? And now you have evidence to back it up. I mean, I tell people all the time, even just in their professional careers, keep track of the things. How, what budgets are you managing? How many people are you managing? How many locations are you at, to get some of that quantifiable information? You can do the same, even if you're volunteering. How many families did you deliver meals to? That's important stuff. Just because it was volunteer experience doesn't negate the fact that it was experience.
Exactly.
That experience. That's something that I feel like even a lot of professionals, like right now, even people that are employed, like they don't really talk about it. They're not really sharing about, they're not really going back to their resume. I'm guilty of like updating these things that I'm doing right now. Like, yeah, I'm not just a coach right now. Like there's other things in my life that I'm probably more passionate about in some ways, like I love my kids a lot more. Like,
right.
It's hard to quantify, sure, but there's things that I do with them that are volunteer just by coincidence, like, or they are involved in the community that, align with and complement the work that I'm doing professionally and the work that I'm striving towards to help people succeed and grow. And am I willing to actually take a little bit of time now to then reap the benefits of that opportunity later whenever somebody says, hey, what else are you doing? Like, how else are you helping people? Because a life coach means a lot of different weird things. And
yeah,
that's what I've learned. I'm like, what is life coach? It's kind of like saying you're in real estate. No offense to my real estate friends. I was a realtor, but everybody's a real estate agent and everybody's a life coach. I've been both. Guilty.
There you go.
So I'm work and willingness to put forth that effort and that experience is a powerful tool. As you guys, like, what are you guys doing now to really help people prepare? Like, what can people be on the lookout for by you guys currently today that you can say, hey guys, I can help right now do this. This is where I can come in, because I know you guys have some things to share that I want people to know how to reach you, what you're doing. What solutions do you got?
You can go for it, Tom.
Okay. Well, I think the most obvious opportunity that I can offer is going through our assessment process. And that is for a high school student who is looking to start preparing for college. It is for that 8th grader who's trying to figure out what to do in public school and in high school. It looks like a spaghetti chart of choices. What do I do in high school? And what's the right path? So that 8th grader can take advantage of our assessment process as well, or that the college student that is home now trying to figure out if they're really doing the right thing. Do they, are they starting to question their direction? That assessment can provide affirmation, and there is value in affirmation. We have an adult, who is looking to reset and to re-enter the workforce, but they're not sure if what they were doing is really what they should be doing as they get back into the workplace. The assessment can really be a wonderful tool for that purpose too, and really give some fodder for Mark to use in terms of that eventual resume that's going to be created. So that assessment piece is hugely powerful for anyone who is looking forward.
I love that. That's super cool.
And right now we're giving a $50 discount through the 15th
there you go.
of the month. So now's a great opportunity to step up.
Yeah, that's great.
I'll throw that link up here in the chat for folks to click on too, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm posting Mark's information right now too.
Yeah, there you go.
In the chat, because I know that we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Usually these guys can post these things, but for some reason our stream isn't letting them do that. So as Mark's talking, I'll post Tom's information.
There you go.
We'll just do a little adjustment accordingly.
Yeah, that's great. I would say I heard it said a couple months ago, even before all this happened, that it's surprising how people are willing to spend $100 a month on a personal trainer to get their bodies in shape, but aren't willing to hire a resume writer for one-time total revamp to impact their earning potential for years to come. And same with higher education. Investing in Tom can just dramatically change the trajectory of your children's lives. And so I think it's kind of prioritization a little bit and making sure that you're investing in what's most important in your life, and making sure that, that's on the top of your list. The cool thing about, being a small business and being local is that I can customize absolutely everything to absolutely everybody. I've started calling it concierge service because, it's that ability to, to make a new resume template that really speaks to your personality. It's not this cookie cutter thing. It's about what's important to you. I tell people all the time, depending on your budget, then let's just start with the resume. And then if you're able to, in 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, we'll work on your cover letter and your LinkedIn profile. If you get an interview, you don't have to pay for an interview prep now because you haven't got an interview, but when you get the interview, let me know. We'll jump on for an interview prep real quick. And so it's about kind of customizing each person's experience to make sure that they get the most value out of it. And to make sure that I'm a good fit with everybody, right? It's just to make sure that that I can produce something that's going to be valuable to you. My goal is to make as much value as I can for each client, to make sure that everybody really gets some sort of an individualized experience where their voice comes through the the filter of my perfectionism. And so it's really putting your best foot forward because it's you talking about yourself, but you don't have to come up with that content. I get to do that for you and deal with the headache of I did this one thing and the line spacing is all off and it's crazy and it's driving me nuts. I get to deal with that. You don't have to deal with that.
So wait, you're going to make their life easier, Mark, is what I'm hearing you say. Like,
oh yeah, that's the goal.
Listen up, friends. And this is applicable for the high schooler as well as the professional, the one that's even retiring and looking to do volunteer work. This is a good opportunity. Mark, is there a difference in resume? Like, how far back should someone date their resume back towards? Like, should it be like, I graduated 10 years ago. Is that what do I of my college experience do I need to actually reference still?
Right. So I feel like clients always get maybe not annoyed, but I think they're always surprised. My answer is always, it depends. I have some people.
My favorite word.
That's right. It's the best answer. It's hard. I'll give blanket statements that don't apply to absolutely everybody. So I'll preface it with that. In general, try to be as concise as possible. The resume is about a hook, right? It's just to get them interested enough to get you in the door. That being said, try for a page. If you can't do a page, because a lot of people can't, that's perfectly fine. Do 2 pages. If you're doing 3 pages, people get bored by the 3rd page. The brain can't pay attention for that long in a hiring manager who's flipping through 200 resumes. So don't go on to a 3rd page unless they're asking for a CV, which is a lot longer and a lot more comprehensive. My general principle is you go back between 10 and 20 years. 20 years if the information is applicable, if what you were doing is important enough to be mentioned. If you were working part-time retail jobs 20 years ago and now you're a financial planner, you don't need to mention any of that. It doesn't need to come into play. But if it's relevant, sure, go for it. List back. We're in 2020 right now. I very rarely will list anything beyond the year 2000. If it's pre-2000, I will almost never include it. Just because people want to know not what I talk about past value a lot. The saying goes, don't tell me what you did yesterday, tell me what you're going to do today, right? And so if you can't translate it into future value, if it doesn't point to the fact that you're going to be good at the job you're doing, then don't include it. I tell people all the time, read through your resume, and if you feel like anyone could say what you say, then it's not worth including. And think about it from the hiring manager's perspective. Sit in their seat. there's certain things that I never talk about, right? I never say written and verbal communication skills, because everyone knows how to write, presumably, who's applying for this job, and everyone knows how to speak. So there's no value there. It's real estate that you're using for the wrong purposes. And so it's all about being unique and communicating value that sets you apart. If it doesn't set you apart, I don't want to include it. And that includes, experience that's 20, 30, 40 years in the past doesn't need to be on there.
Yeah. Tom, what are you telling juniors right now? Like, what's your wisdom, like, to a junior? SATs, ACTs, all kind of in flux. What's your wisdom?
Well, there's going to be opportunity to take those standardized tests in the fall, so I wouldn't be panicking. And the good news is, from what we can tell, there's going to be kind of a shift away from emphasis on standardized testing for admissions this fall. I mean, I think it's still important to engage and to take those tests, so you have that information to share. But let's not freak out, and we can move forward in the fall. What really needs to happen right now for juniors is they need to be accumulating their activities and creating that high school resume. And because when we talk about admission, or applying to schools and the admissions process, we're really dealing with a marketing process, right? We're marketing the student to the schools to get in and to get assistance on the merit side. So we create a marketing document that we call a high school resume. It's really a marketing document. But it really, and it can be used for the application process as well. But we share that marketing document with the schools that are on our list ahead of the application process, just to start that marketing process. And then there's demonstrated interest that has to occur too. There's a lot of things that need to be looked at. We need to list the schools that we're going to be applying to. I mean, gosh, we're in May. I mean, if there may be a shift in early action, early decision dates come fall, that may be pushed back, but not that much. It's still going to be in the fall. That's upon us. As a high school junior, we're going to be looking at application process come when we hit school, in August, September. There's a lot of prep that needs to be done. We don't want to just be, caught with our pants down come September, October, and looking at this, what are we going to be doing? We need to be looking at schools. Do we have a list? We need to be, looking at our resume, and so that we're prepared to send that out. Essay writing, what we need to be looking at our personal statement right now. We don't need to wait to figure out, what schools we're applying to. I mean, the Common App has prompts in it that we can be looking to. Most of the platforms for applications, one of the prompts is submit something that you've written. It's not, a direct, a prompt asking some question. So we can be working on our essays now as we go into summer, so we have stuff to work with, and we're not trying to play catch up. That's what's important. Juniors need to get on the stick, and they need to start getting things in place.
Yeah. It's that concept of, just because everything's changed doesn't mean everything's changed. Exactly. You still need to take these same steps. You still need to apply to colleges. You still need to apply to jobs. It's just maybe you're adjusting your tactics, but you still have to do it.
Right. Yeah. And pieces of the puzzle may shift, but it's we still got to put the puzzle together. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that.
The work still needs to get done. It really does. That anything else that you guys, I know we're kind of wrapping up here on time, is there anything else that either one of you would like to share, just like from your heart, as you guys connect with people here on Facebook and on YouTube, and just that you feel like you want them to know from you where you stand, what what your experience has been? Tom, you have the advantage of time compared to us young folk.
Thank you for I say it's funny, you say with age comes wisdom. I found that it also comes with an increased need to share that wisdom, whether people ask for it or not.
Right. Hey, you're in good company here.
That's fantastic.
So, but no, just, if you have questions, if you just want to talk, if you just, want to, feel like there's somebody out there that cares about what happens to you or your child, call me. I'm a grandpa. Okay. That's how I approach the kids that I work with, because they become my kids. And I think that's important in having someone who cares about, what is going to happen and really embraces the process in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're also offering people a free consultation to half.
Oh yeah. Yes.
What is that?
Yeah. As I said, if you just want to call and chat, please do.
Yeah. And the same for me. I mean, I do consultations with a lot of people, a lot of people. And so usually about 15-20 minutes of just sitting down and we talk through the resume. I ask a lot of some clarifying questions and give concepts and ideas for how I could help. And then of course people are free to run with those ideas and help themselves too. And so, just like Tom, I'll sit down with anybody who needs to know, like, well, what do I do now? What do I, how am I going to go through this interview? I've never used Zoom before for a call. What am I supposed to, all those kinds of things that people are concerned about. Reach out to somebody who knows what they're doing. It's not a bad thing to ask for help. Everything is going to be okay. Because I think there's just a lot of fear and generalized anxiety out there. And so take that nervous energy and then project it toward where you want to go. Start creating a path, start writing it down, just like you would at work. I mean, maybe you're laid off. Sit there and for 35 minutes, work on something diligently, work on updating your resume or coming up with ideas or making a list of companies where you might want to work. And then take a break, just like you would at work. Go talk to somebody, get outside, do something like that. Break up your day just like you would when you're at work, just because you're in a job transition or looking for, a new position, doesn't mean that you can't kind of have that structure for yourself. It's still super important.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys. This is awesome. If you all need anything from either one of these gentlemen, please take advantage of their knowledge and their experience and their expertise. They're good men who truly care about who they're working for and the people that they get to serve. That's why I invited them to this conversation, is because their hearts are in it and they're willing to have the real conversation to help an individual take on the responsibility themselves with the help of somebody who's willing to go into the conversation with them. So that's what my business stands for. That's what these guys stand for. So regardless if you're a high schooler, a parent with a high schooler, or maybe a parent that will have a high schooler eventually, if you are a professional that is just kicking around like, hey, this is not where I want to be. I'm not content. I know where I want to go, but how am I going to get there? Even if it's 5 years out. Well, the work started yesterday, so let's go. Or even if you know that you want to move within your own company, how's that possible? You can stand out, and there's ways to do that Mark can help with in terms of getting your skills and really presenting your skills in a really both humble and confident way.
Right.
Because that's really, if you can do that, you are a rare breed, and people will notice that.
It's true.
Anybody can be pompous. Anybody can brag about themselves, but if you can do it with some street cred and some sincerity, man, you have a gift to the world, and that's a gift that's worth teaching others and sharing with clients, and people are going to pay a lot of money for it. So Tom and Mark are obviously great resources for just that. I know for me, I'm doing the same thing that these guys are doing, free 30-minute coaching calls just to see where the gap is, right? This is where we want to go. This is where I'm at. What's going on in between? The conversation that is there is probably just one layer of what's going on. Let's chunk it down is where I'm going to take you to and invite you into and stand with you, because that's what these guys are going to do as well. So if that could be of help to any of you all, more than happy to do that. Tom and Mark, I want to wrap up this time together with Real Talk with Joe with a little bit of a quick Q&A, a little more, blitzing, if I may, pop quiz. And so we'll have some fun. We'll start with Tom, and then Tom to Mark. So each of you get to answer the same question. And like I said, first thing that comes to your mind, I want you to go. All right? You guys ready for this? Don't be too ready.
Okay.
All right. Tom, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
Ooh.
Blue.
I I love blue too. Look at that. See, look, this is beautiful. All right, where was the last place you ate before COVID?
Oh gosh, what's the name of the restaurant? It was a Mexican restaurant. I'll leave it at that.
Love Mexican. Happy Cinco de Mayo. There we go.
I think mine was Mill and MacArthur.
Where's
up here on
that?
the north side on MacArthur.
Rico's.
Rico's. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tom, favorite movie?
Cabaret.
Oh, good.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. So I asked it.
Cabaret. I mean, I just watched it again the other night, and I love it because it's a musical, but it delves into the rise of Nazi Germany,
Mm.
and it just it's deep, very deep, and I love the music too.
I think my favorite movie, it's a toss-up, and they're two very weird ones. Lord of the Rings, because I could watch those like on repeat, but also there's a French film called Paris Je t'aime, because I speak French and I really love that movie. But I don't watch it a lot, but it's like it has like a special place in my heart.
See, there you go, man. There you go. Tom, who's inspired you?
Who's inspired me? And this is, I don't want this taken wrong, but I'm going to say Jesus Christ. I am not a religious person, but I am a faithful person. And when we talk about leadership, I think it's so important that we remember that the greatest leader this world has known found his strength through humility.
I like that. That's good.
It's awesome. Mark?
My mother.
Nice.
She's the best.
Hey, Mother's Day this weekend, folks.
I know. Don't forget.
Don't mess up. You all have been warned.
Yeah.
It's on Sunday. I know this.
Don't hug your mom, though.
Nothing. Not trying to my own horn.
Elbow bump.
Yeah, elbow bump your mom.
Right, is that right? All right, Tom, what would people find on your nightstand? If they were to look at it right now, what would be there?
On my nightstand is my phone. And I forget the name of the title of the book, but it's a book that was given to me for my birthday that has its collection of quotes from somebody's father, but it's a humorous book.
Nice.
Nice.
But I'm drawing a blank, but that's what
it's there though. There's a book on your nightstand. That's all people gotta know.
And my phone.
Better than mine.
Mark, how about you?
I have a whole bunch of change and that stuff that you spray on your pillow that smells good, so that it helps you sleep.
That's
like
awesome. Lets you have some sweet dreams.
That's right.
Right.
That's awesome.
What is last question, one principle that you try to live your life by?
Give more than you take.
That's good.
I like that. Give more than you take.
That's what you did there. A little copy paste, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just give it your best. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Especially now. Are you willing to give it your best? Are you really willing to go all out? That's the invitation that we want to send people off with. Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you both.
Enjoyed it.
All your wisdom. Friends, connect with these guys. They know what they're talking about. They know who to connect to as well. And so thank you so much for this time. It's a blessing to me, and I'm sure to so many. So thank you guys, and everybody stay safe, and we'll chat soon.
Have a great
Take care.
week. Happy Mother's Day.